I'm always trying to look for similarities, the way that God deals with his church and the way that God dealt with Israel in the Old Testament and the promises for the New. Because God's character never changes. There's some promises. It's interesting, I don't know if, I'm sure I've done it. Let me just put it that way, I've done it. Where you look at some promises in the Old Testament and you go, I wonder if I can, accept that and claim that. You hear about claiming the promises of God and those things in Jeremiah and Isaiah and other things that talks about God's purpose, and he has a purpose for us, and he'll lift you up on eagle's wings, and all those kinds of wonderful, beautiful promises. And I think there's something to that. We need to be careful that we don't steal. Is kind of a story like this. Like I told this once, but you have a car and you have the keys and you drive the car, and then you look in the glove compartment and you find out that it was willed to your cousin. So it's actually not your car. So you have to be careful about driving somebody else's car. Numbers 24:5, how lovely are your tents, O Jacob. That is definitely the tribes of Israel, your encampments, O Israel. Like palm groves that stretch afar, like gardens beside a river, like aloes that the Lord has planted, like cedar trees beside the waters. Water shall flow from his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters. His king shall be higher than Agag, who was the first king that rose itself up against Israel besides Pharaoh, the first national king there in Canaan. And his kingdom shall be exalted. So this is the tents of Jacob and Israel. God brings him out of Egypt, and is for him like the horns of the wild ox. He shall eat up the nations, his adversaries, and shall break their bones in pieces and pierce them through with his arrows. He crouched, he lay down like a lion, and like a lioness who will rouse up against him. Blessed are those who bless you, and cursed are those who curse you. It's very interesting. That is the same exact wording that God gave Abraham, and now he gives to Moses in the book of Numbers concerning Israel. And you would say, I hope you're asking, well, what does that have to do with the church? Because it's mentioning Jacob, but it's talking about the character of God and how he treats his people. He's going to give them authority. He's going to protect them. Deuteronomy 30, and the Lord your God will bring you into the land that your fathers promised, that you may possess it, and he will make you more prosperous and numerous than your fathers. And the Lord your God will circumcise your heart and your heart of your offspring, so that you will love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, that you may live. And the Lord your God will put all these curses on your foes and enemies who persecuted you. So we're looking for the Lord to take Israel. We in this church at least look for God to take Israel into the land. But didn't he circumcise our hearts before he did Israel's? Before he did national Israel, he circumcised the hearts of the church. He circumcised your heart if you are a believer in God. In those days, as Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, Bigthan and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs, who guarded the threshold, became angry and sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. And this came to the knowledge of Mordecai. And he told it to Queen Esther, and Esther told the king in the name of Mordecai. When the affair was investigated and found to be so, the men were both hanged on the gallows, and it was recorded in the book of the Chronicles in the presence of the king. Now, I was going to go someplace else with this. I decided to keep this verse for this reason. That Christians, Jews, remember Esther, Joseph, we remember even Moses, was placed in a certain nation, under a certain family, in a certain household. That's kind of what's happening there. That is what happens with the church as well. We need to be careful that we do everything unto the Lord, but we make money. Paul did tents. people do politics, people do whatever we're gonna do, city commission. We just saw two wonderful people, Christians, picked up for the state Congress, and that is a really, really good thing to see. And so that is what's happening, and they are made, like Esther, you know, they're in for it for such a time as this. And now the Lord is going to protect the church, and I believe this country to some extent, with this kind of action. And so we need to not claim specific promises, but claim the character of God, the principles of the Lord, and look for his hand in these things. And so let's just look at a couple things. We're gonna touch on this first before we look at the elections, and hopefully fairly briefly, but we've had enough of that, right? 6.8 earthquake off the shores in Cuba, southern shores of Cuba. There's no evidence of damage yet. It's just recent here, so I haven't been able to see if there's any damage and stuff. But behind that, I mean, in front of that was a 5.9. Just about, I think, an hour or two before that. I want to remind you of the difference. Yeah, a 6.8 quake compared to a 5.9 is almost 8 times bigger and 22.4 times stronger, the energy released. So that is a significant quake. Small aftershocks already. We'll see how that goes, but it's interesting that a 5.9 quake, a significant quake, is a pre-shock. They call it a pre-shock before the big one, talking about shocks, right? Let's talk about Ronald Reagan here for just a minute. Ronald Reagan, 1980, won by 8 million people. He won 49 states. That's what it says. No, yeah, states carried 49. I'm not sure why I've got that map up there. That's what I got on Wikipedia. But anyway, maybe that's the other one. No, I think that's the other one. That actually should be that info on the left. It should be for this one. 1984, he took 49 states and he won by 17 million. See, 8 and then 17 million. Talk about he didn't come back. He just plowed over everybody. Grover Cleveland, 1884, was a Democrat, and he won that year. Then he took a couple sessions off, and in 1892, he made a comeback, and the Green Party, I think, helped him here a little bit, but he was a Democrat, and he did pretty good. But he was the only president to not be elected in consecutive terms and then come back the second or third term later. Now Donald Trump has busted that one up. 2016, he lost the popular vote according to records by 3 million. Lost by 3 million, right? And that's not supposed to be there. And in 2024, he won so far by 4 million, which is an 11 million vote increase there. And the yellow stars is a complete sweep of the swing states, which is the first time that has happened in 40 years. Who was Ronald Reagan, right? So Trump has done that and has been given the mandate. Somebody called this, Trump has better coverage than Verizon. So this is, we look at this every once in a while, and you see the blue. They're all the big major cities and they're all on the coast, even the coast of the big lakes, the Great Lakes, if you will. So it's quite amazing. But probably the most interesting thing that come out of this, well, there's a couple things, but in 2020, Biden, it says here, got 81.3 million votes. 81.3. Trump that year got 84.2. He won with 74.2. He won with 74.5 this year, right? So 81.2. Look at the number of states he carried. 25. He only carried 25. And you get 81.3 million out of 25 states? That is that even possible, is the question. So this is what's come out of this. Is this even possible? However, well, watch this now. Think about this. I don't know what the Lord has planned for America, and I don't know what he has planned for Trump. Again, I don't know if he's a believer. That's between him and God. So far, he's him. I'll tell you what, I'm leaving his salvation up to God and Franklin Graham. Franklin Graham's working on it. I don't know what he's doing. He is the leader of our nation, and God has raised him up, it looks like to me. With the things that happened before and now the voting, it seems that God had his hand on him. What will he do? We don't know, because remember the first term, COVID hit, and remember the bugs are God's too, and COVID hit, and really I think that put a big kibosh on some of his work. And it may have given the left an opportunity, and that's what it looks like. Criminal or not, I'm not sure what to say about that, but it looks that way. But for this to come back like this, she won 19 states and has almost 71 million. So that in itself is quite a few there for only 19 states. But everybody's looking at this and going, how is this even possible? We really don't know how it's possible. So the Democrats are asking themselves what's going on and throwing flares at everybody. What Democrats face is deeper than the usual finger pointing after a loss. And I think this is really good of the Lord if this is what he's doing, besides a few other things. But if he's making our nation look at our Constitution and our laws righteous as the fathers could have gotten them, forefathers could have gotten them, that's a really good thing. And even a lot of Democrats are coming out saying they ran on abortion was like number one, and some of these other really woke ideas, bad ideas, immoral ideas, ungodly ideas. And we're hoping that's why God stepped in. But I want to also remind you that God uses people, and the righteousness of a people exalts a nation. So I'm hoping that the people saw this. I'm really hoping that's what happened, that they saw this. But I want to remind you, he only won by 4 to 5 million people. So we still have a major problem here, that they couldn't figure out who she was. Are they just voting for blue across the board? Whatever that is. But we're just going to hope that this is a change. I just don't know. Harris' campaign tells a Muslim interviewer he can't ask about Gaza. She talks up bacon instead. She talked about putting bacon in your eggs or something. I can't remember, but it was just, you've got those policies, but then you've got somebody who can't speak to these things and speak on their feet. Her interview with a Muslim social media influencer never saw the light of day because of this. She didn't pick the Jewish man, the moderate, if you will. She didn't pick somebody who could stand on his feet and didn't have nicknames like Tim. Okay, so she made a lot of mistakes, and then she ended with that should be 1.2 billion, not 1.8. $1.2 billion spent, and she's $20 million in debt on this race, which is nuts. Now you can go across the board. I'm sure you watching news where he won more. He didn't win the Latino vote, but he won more of them. Huge numbers, double digits, I think, increase. Same with Latinos, black voters, others, huge increases. Here's one out of New York. Trump sees a 50% boost in New York Jewish vote. And then look at California. He won 10 more of the the, the counties there can, I'm telling you, there's some major churches in California. Jack Hibbs' church is one of them, probably leading the way in a bunch of ways. They are trying to change California, and they put a dent in it this time, I'll tell you. And I think Newsom is on his heels right now. What is Trump's agenda going to be? The borders, of course. Oil. He's going to open up the oil fields, ship more to Europe. He's going to try to crush Russia economically. He's going to try to crush Iran economically, sanctions, cutting their oil off, all kinds of other stuff. He's going to hold to the sanctions that he had before, maybe even some more, probably will. The corridor between the Gulf, the Persian Gulf and through Israel, through Saudi Arabia and into Israel. Again, new sanctions. The Supreme Court, he's got, some people say 2 justices he's going to pick. He'll deal with the Russian-Ukraine thing, however that's going to look out. And then Europe's military, he's going to tell them again to stiffen up. Now, a reminder, when you're talking about Europe's military, in my view, because the Antichrist comes out of there and he has a massive military, I believe Europe's military has to grow. It has to be caused to grow. God causes it, or however you want to do that, but it must grow. And Russia right now is the reason it is starting to grow. And there's more and more calls for Europe's own military machine. And then China must, according to Trump, he's going to try to either work with them or hurt them economically. They're in a bad shape. They're in bad shape economically right now. Anyway, things like this, I hope, will go away more and more. FEMA official directed hurricane relief workers to avoid homes with Trump signs as agency conducts cleanup. Now, think about this. This kind of stuff, the hate, I don't know if you've seen some of the videos. Even on the right, if you will, some of the hate videos that came out. But on the left, and what's happening now, there's so much hate in this nation right now. And this is a picture of it. And it's against Trump. It's political. It's political. But are you watching what's happening with Israel right now? And I believe, again, if the Lord tarries, and it just seems like he will for a while, not a long while maybe, but the church is going to face this. The Western church is going to face this if I read the Bible clearly. So everybody's a meltdown. Look at Pelosi crying there. It's just it's a complete meltdown. Again, I just want to. The pollsters are liars. I mean, I don't know, or they don't, or they're inept. They just don't know what they're doing. I just don't understand. All the way up to election day, all the polls, Harris is going to win. This guy, Luntz, came out and said, I don't see where they're getting all this. And then when the Iowa poll came out, he was on all over the stations saying this is ridiculous. Iowa is not going to go for Harris. So the pollsters for like the third election cycle, at least the third election cycle, were almost all of them were wrong. There's a couple out there that are legit, but it's just hard to listen to anybody right now. This guy supposedly picked the last 9 elections, and he picked Harris for this one.
Up 4 points. I don't get it. Why they think Trump's going to win Pennsylvania.
I'm not worried about Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania's looking good for Harris.
I do too. But I'm saying the New York Times gives a slight edge to Trump, and I don't understand that.
Yeah, I wouldn't read into that too much.
I wouldn't read into that too much. Reality smacks people in the face. Pelosi blames Biden. Biden, I don't know if you saw him. In the last video before the elections, he was, after the elections, he was smiling, and it looks like a changed man. I don't know. We'll see. prophecy predictions. You're going to hear all kinds of junk there. And the church, again, still needs to be careful. The church is absolutely split. Look at this guy. This is supposed to be a conservative Texas megachurch pastor. He is a pro-life pastor in Texas. A pro-life senior pastor of a Baptist megachurch in Texas came out in support of Harris. This guy has a 3,000 person Baptist church in Arlington, condemned President Trump's character and his conduct during the January 6th Capitol riots. McKissick wrote, while praising the Democrats' nominee as a person of good character. Now, I can understand if you wish to decide that you're going to attack Trump's character. I just want to remind you, we were not voting for a pastor. We would like a presidential person. But this person is calling somebody on the other side a person of good character. Do you know how she got to where she's at? It isn't a good story. McKissick said his position on marriage equality and abortion have not changed. He still supports Texas' constitutional ban on gay marriage, as well as protecting life in the womb. Does this make any sense? However, McKissick said that because neither party supports his positions on social issues, he will instead vote based on the character of the candidate. So Trump is a misogynist, right? Everybody calls him a misogynist. His first cabinet member is a woman, which is pretty cool. Susie Wiles, she's been with him for a long time. This guy, remember Yuval Harari? We haven't checked in with him in quite a while. If Trump becomes president again in 2024, it will be the final death blow to what remains of the global order. We can only hope so. Probably not the case. However, this is where everybody goes. Everybody again is being chosen. Is being caused to choose between politics and religion and where they stand with God and all these things. And it deeply, I'm not sure, a friend in California posted on Facebook here recently, and he said, I feel, if you voted for the other side and you're hurt, I'm praying for you. Just know that, if you need to talk, I'll be your friend and those kinds of things. And this guy's a really good guy. Was in the Air Force with him. And he's Hispanic, by the way. And a really nice person. But this, again, is going to cause the whole world to go to their corners. And you can either change, which some people may change. I heard a little bit of that. But I heard an awful lot of doubling down. And so we still have a major, major problem. Abu Ivanka, this is Arab news. Trump set to pick up from where he left off in the Middle East. They are going to talk like they're afraid and all these other things, but I'm telling you the Arabs are probably not dancing right now, but they are very, very happy about that this happened. Benjamin Netanyahu is very happy that this happened. Qatar agrees to kick Hamas out of Doha after Hamas said we're not going to take the latest opportunity. Remember, they never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. So Qatar has been, the United States it says the United States has politely asked Qatar to have Hamas leaders leave Qatar. I don't know how that went, but Biden is still trying to make things happen in the Middle East before he gets out. We will see how that goes. Meanwhile, this is happening. And I don't know if you've read up on it. There's not a lot of it in the news. It seemed like it took at least a half a day, if not more than that, to get in much of the national news. But there was a pogrom or really attacks on Jewish people in the Netherlands before a major game that they had there. And about 3,000 or so Israelis flew in for this game. And there's evidence that they planned this pogrom, what they're calling a pogrom, in Amsterdam. And so they were on social media. They were saying, let's be ready when they come out, walk the streets and all that stuff. They were breaking into some people's hotel rooms. They were just doing all kinds of people. The last I saw, 10 people, at least 10 were injured. 2 were missing, but they found those 2, I think. I don't believe anybody has died, but it was a very, very significant thing. Remember what this is going to do? This is going to continue to drive Israelis out of Europe, which there is about maybe a total of 750,000, most of those in France. This is what globalized intifada looks like. Global leaders react to Amsterdam pogrom. In terrible historical irony, this is happening 2 days before the anniversary of Kristallnacht in 1938, when Nazi sanctions and led pogroms against Jews erupted across the German Reich. And so this is what happened. Now, when Jesus said that if they persecuted me, they will persecute you, who was he talking to, and on what basis? That he was Jewish? And there's no sense of that. That, of course, is being used here. These are Jewish. Jesus is Jewish. Most of the world doesn't really, quote, pick on Jesus directly. They probably would kill him again if he came. But why did they kill him? Because he said he was the Son of God. Which one of these miracles do you stone me? He said, for none of those. They said, no, for none of those, but you claim to be the Son of God. And I think when it comes down to that is the issue. And we've been there to some extent. The church is backing up from that. The polls, the polls, I guess, are suggesting that the church doesn't believe that Jesus Christ is divine anymore. He can't be the Son of God. He wasn't the Son of God before the cross. There's those cults out there that believe either Jesus Christ became divine on the cross, or he became the Son of God on the cross, or he had to work for it, and then when he died on the cross, then God exalted him. Some kind of hooey like that. He was the Son of God. He was divine before the cross and after the cross. And that's what the smaller section now, I'm just saying it's becoming the smaller section of the church begins to believe these issues that Paul says are non-disputable. All right? There are disputable issues and there are non-disputable issues. And we cannot give up on these. And I simply think, it just simply makes sense, biblical sense to me, that these issues will become a major significant issue, a deal coming forward. All right? Israel sent passenger planes to pick these people up, get them out of the Netherlands. The Mossad was headed over there, but they stopped them. The Dutch police said, we'll take care of it. And they did. They're rounding people up. I think the last I heard they have 50 or 60 rounded up already. Here's a man, Aaron from London, helped an Israeli man who was being beaten. He got punched. One of them said, he's British, leave him alone. Another said, yes, but he helped a Jew. And this is Matthew 25 stuff. You gave them a drink of water, you helped them. The leader, one of the leaders of the Dutch there, looks like a Jew hunt in the streets of Amsterdam. Arrest and deport the multicultural scum. See what's happening here? He's calling these Islamic people scum that attacked Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters in our streets. Ashamed that this can happen in the Netherlands. Totally unacceptable. He's absolutely right. But again, look what's happening here. He's the leader of the nation, And now he's singled out this group, and they, you know, the ones who attacked, the ones who are part of this, need to be singled out, arrested, I think deported, get them out, if not something else. He also said, a pogrom in the streets of Amsterdam, we have become the Gaza of Europe. Muslims with Palestinian flags hunting down Jews. I will not accept that, never. The authorities will be held accountable for their failure to protect the Israeli citizens. Never again. That's an Israeli quote, never again. The Holocaust, never again. Now he's the head of the coalition there. I don't know how much they can hold it together. Nationalism, popularism has come back to some extent. It's coming back to Germany to some extent, which can be good and can be bad. We just need to continue to watch what happens. UK is a big mess right now. The Prime Minister in the UK is a really bad guy. Macron isn't much better. In Paris, Saint Germain football fan club displayed a huge Free Palestine banner at a game. And in Paris, so, Dearmore, Michigan, remember Dearmore, Michigan, they've allowed them to play those, I can't remember what they call it, but their prayers song over the loudspeakers across the streets, across the cities there, and so this is our nation, our world is being divided in a huge way. I think, and I'm praying that President Trump and his cabinet will help settle things down, bring a little bit more peace and stability to the United States first. That's his job, but can to the world as well. And we'll see this. But ultimately, we have a hugely divided world. Back to Israel, the alerts are still going off. Hezbollah's firing rockets into Tel Aviv down there. There's some of the people they picked up in the Netherlands there. So, following Trump's victory, the Iran convenes a Supreme Council. On the docket, what they're going to be talking about is President Trump, of course, Hezbollah's decline. What do they do now with Hezbollah? One of the leaders out of Israel said today that Hezbollah is defeated. No, they're defeated in the south, but they are not defeated. Whether they should follow through with an attack on Israel, because remember they're aligned to attack Israel, and now it'll be interesting what Biden does through all these times too. One last thing here, he's 85 years old, and reports of him being sick, and again, what does he want to do for Iran before he dies? And it could be problematic, but they are behind the 8 ball. The United States, their military, has put them behind the 8 ball. And Israel, of course, the military as well. But they are behind the 8 ball. If they do anything, they're going to pay the price. They can't really do a whole lot except to tell their tentacles to keep at it, you know. Initial report, Iran has placed ballistic missiles in 74 locations throughout the country. Okay, thank you for telling us. We'll have the Aegis missile systems and the THAAD missile systems ready to go. Thanks for letting us know. The Justice Department on Friday disclosed an Iranian murder plot against Trump, charging a man who said he's been tasked by a government official before this week's election. I think he was an Afghan citizen, and the Iranians hired him. This general comes out and says, we aim to kill Pompeo and to kill General McKenzie. It is a sad note that Pompeo is not going to be in the cabinet, but we really do thank him for his service. He was really good at what he did. We, God willing, aim to kill Trump. So that was in February last year. There's been lots of plans and plots before that. After that. So what will Trump do with this when he takes office? It'll be interesting. Real quick on Russia, Moldovan President Sandu finally overtakes the pro-Russian candidate there, and they're going to pay. Russia will make them pay a little bit for that if they have their way about it. Looks like she'll be able to continue leading Moldova. Russia launched 2 Iranian satellites into space. I don't know how they can keep paying for these things. I wonder how much debt Iran is into Russia. I'm not sure a whole lot because of the drones and the missiles that Iran has sent to Russia, so they're probably doing okay. But it reminds me of the left. Why do they keep doing things they know are going to come back to haunt them to some extent? I believe it's like a satanic idea. Satan knows that his doom is sure. He can read the scriptures better than you and I. He knows what the angel said and the Spirit said to his followers. The Holy Spirit said to his followers. And then when they wrote the scriptures, Satan was probably looking over their shoulders, you know. He knows what's coming. Remember in the book of Revelation, it says he knows his time is short. And what does he do? He starts a war in heaven, and then he comes to earth and tries to finish it. So there's this really a demonic idea of doubling down. It's almost like they're on drugs, demon possessed, whatever it is. They keep at this kind of stuff. I will say that in Islam, it is the belief that they will get paradise at the end, which again doesn't make sense. But so a couple days before election, Netanyahu fires his defense ministry. He's been having little problems with him before. He fired him. Why do you think he did that? He waited as long as he could. And then I think he saw the writing on the wall, which we've been talking about recently quite a bit. And he hired this guy, Katz, Israel Katz. Good name for him, huh? He's called the Bulldozer. Is known for an extreme policies, according to this, extreme policies against Arab presence in Palestine, advocating for settlement expansion and opposing for a 2-state solution. I'm not sure that is extreme. It is to some people. He proposed a controversial initiative during the recent Gaza aggression, suggesting the creation of an artificial island off the Gaza coast to relocate its residents. I'm not sure how good an idea that is, but he didn't suggest they wipe them out. You know, he wants them to live, but he's trying to find a place for them. Katz's controversial proposal for an artificial island off Gaza aims to create a new home for him. Down further, Israel occupation foreign ministry denied that Katz intended to displace Gaza's population, clarifying that the proposal focused on establishing a commercial hub rather than resettlement. But he has been said, and I might have it here, but he's been said, why can't they move to Jordan? You know, why can't, according to, you know, the 1917, 1919, 1920 work between the West and the Arabs, why can't they find a place for them in Jordan or the Middle East somewhere else? Netanyahu drastically changes the wartime cabinet. He also hired the guy on the right named Saar. Again, we've had it. With rumors swirling that Saar would replace Gallant in September, Netanyahu announced that Saar, the New Hope Party, was joining the government. So he's consolidating the coalition there, the government as well. Like Katz, Saar is relatively well aligned with Netanyahu's war goals, and it opposes a 2-state solution. And so this is doubling down. It's very, very interesting to me that in the 10 years that we've been here doing this and looking through this stuff, how the United States and Israel continue to parallel each other in many ways. They tried to take down Netanyahu in the courts. They tried to do it with Trump. Netanyahu looked like he lost for a while, came back. Trump, same. Looks like they're in trouble, comes back. All these kinds of things. They tried to blow up Netanyahu's house the other day. You know, those kinds of things. So it's very interesting to me. I don't know if it's a God thing. It looks like it is to me. We're headed toward the end times here. Senior security officials and the political leadership overseeing them opposed both the pager operations and Nasrallah's elimination. So Netanyahu just today said, yeah, that was us. We did the pager thing and we eliminated Nasrallah. So he's taken ownership. So there's reports now. Netanyahu and Trump have met a couple times before the elections. They've had many phone calls, I understand, and that's what people are saying. I'm just reporting what I hear. Over Iran over the last several days. And one of the issues is that being reported that Trump agrees with Netanyahu that they ought to take out Carg Island, which is, again, I want to remind you, 70% of their income. It's almost all of their oil and gas imports and exports. And so it'll be very, very interesting if that is the case. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Why is Trump not worried about the ramifications and the gas prices? If that's one of his pushes, why is he not worried about that? We'll talk about it in a minute. Israel's defense minister signed a deal of purchasing a squadron of 25 of the advanced F-15s and a possible sale of at least 25 more, maybe up to 50. The F-15 is an older jet. It's older than the F-16, but it's heavier. It was well put together. It carries a lot of munitions and big and heavy munitions as well. So that's why Israel likes both the 15s and the 16s, but they refit them for their own good. So they do a lot of work there. So there's the last two pictures that we have. We'll probably have a short night here. With Trump in 2016, the first foreign visit was to Israel. Remember Obama's first foreign visit? It was to Egypt. It was to the Arabs. You see Vance there is on the right. Now again, I know that Vance is Catholic, as I understand it. And Trump, I know he believes in God. He's even mentioned Jesus Christ and his importance in history and to America. I don't know, he hasn't really talked about his importance to himself. I hope he's important to him. We'll leave that between him and God. But we know what they are going to do. Unless Trump has decided that he's going to use the last 4 years as a lame duck and do whatever he wants, which I'm not sure up to this point, after hearing him, after seeing what he's doing, after seeing who he's picking and what he's talking about, I'm not sure that's the case. I'm thinking that he's going to go back and try to finish the first 4 years. That's what it seems to me. We'll see and watch this play out. We need to be careful because Jesus is our Savior, not this president. So, however, he's lining up to do a lot of the same stuff. So back to what we were talking about at the beginning. You see this picture, and they're standing for Israel. And I think they're standing for the church, all right, in general. I know Vance is, and in general, I know Trump is. I know that Trump has a lot of Christian supporters, and I believe that he stands with and for the church. I'm not sure he stands in it. There's a difference, okay? So now, here we are in this period, this history, kind of like Esther, if you will, kind of like, Mordecai and some of these others. So in Exodus 23:20, it says, "Behold, I send an angel before you to guard you on the way and to bring you to the place that I have prepared." Now, I want you to think about Israel and him taking them there. But at the same time, I want you to think about the church and God taking us to where he wants us. Not here in the land, into the millennium, into his kingdom, all right? That's the final goal. Pay careful attention to him and obey his voice. Do not rebel against him, for he will not pardon your transgressions. For my name is in him, but if you carefully obey his voice and do all that I say, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. Now, Trump is not going to worry about oil prices. I don't think he is. He's going to open up the pipelines. He's going to mention that he's going to open up the pipelines, and I think the prices are going to go down. He's going to open up Anwar. He had opened up before. He's going to finish those leases up there. Remember the big field that they found in New Mexico and Texas border there? Possibly the pipeline from Canada. He's not going to be worried about oil prices because he knows what to do about that. So oil in the Middle East is not a huge deal to him. Well, I take it back. It is a huge deal to him. He already put the troops there, remember, to take the oil in Syria, in the conical fields, and those kinds of things. But he's simply saying that he knows how to deal with that. Remember, he was telling the whole time, he told Elon Musk to stay out of the oil thing, let me handle it. He can handle this stuff. He's going to drive the price down because he's going to open up. He's going to sell a lot of oil to Europe. We already are, but he's going to sell a lot more of oil and gas to Europe, especially gas, LNG. And he's going to sanction Iran. He's going to sanction Russia, and so we don't need to be concerned about those exterior things. In going through Daniel, the book of Daniel, we're reminded that Darius first and then Cyrus even Nebuchadnezzar treated Daniel very well. But Daniel still ended up in the lion's den. And the three boys still ended up in the fiery furnace. So we need to continue to pray for America and pray for its good. But know this, that that's not why we're here. It is a decree that the righteousness of a people will exalt a nation. And remember, he told Joseph and he told others, he's telling the church, he's telling the exiles, remember, in James and Peter. He told the exiles, while you're there, have kids. The Old Testament says, have kids. He told the exiles in Jerusalem, have children, grow them up, tell them about the word of the Lord, help the people there, help the nations that you're in, but that's just temporary. So the idea here is that God was against the enemies of the Israelis, or the Jews in the Old Testament. He's still that way today. So I pray that we will be blessed if we back up Israel. All right? But I want to remind you, further on it says, when my angel goes before you and brings you to the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I blot them out, you shall not bow down to their gods nor serve them, nor do as they do, but you shall utterly overthrow them and break their pillars in pieces. You shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from among you. Now they chose not to do that. They served their gods. The question is, what is the church doing? I'm very concerned right here. I'm not sure if the whole church is serving the God and the Father of Jesus Christ. If I close the sky so there is no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send a plague among my people, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and forgive their sin and heal their land. I hope that you prayed for the elections. I think that there was a lot of prayer before these elections. And that, I'm just going to say it, that's what I see, that's what I hear. I know that's what we were doing here. And I'm very grateful for this church for doing that. And I pray that that was a part of what happened. Now watch. We'll finish with this. In Genesis 12:3, he says, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. We read that in another passage there. And look what it says in 2 Thessalonians about the church. After all, it is only right for God to repay with affliction those who afflict you. Okay? So we do not need to be worried about where God is taking us. God will have his hand on us and will lead us through just as he has done Israel. But we can't be going back. This is only for a time. We need to continue to pray, continue to preach the gospel as we have been this church, and I know Fellowship Harvest and Freeman does the same. And I pray at least several others around are doing the same. We need to continue to do this work. And know this, that there are going to be those who come up against us. We don't know when that is. We don't know what that's going to look like. It looks like we may get a reprieve. However, now think about this. Let's say another bug comes. Let's say something disastrous happens. Remember what the Lord says? Sudden destruction. Paul wrote sudden destruction, and some of those things can change on a dime, and we need to be careful not to be afraid of that, but to understand our times. And like Esther, to be understanding that God is helping us. God is helping us. We are here for a time such as this. But remember what Mordecai said to Esther? Don't think that you can escape. We need to be prepared to go through whatever the church is going to go through up to when the Lord deals with her for the last time, takes the remnant home, and then pray for the peace of Jerusalem, because we can see right now with the division on the planet and the hate for Israel, it's going to continue. And at some point, I think the church may be called to task for that. We'll see. Let's be praying for those things. Lord, we worship you and we thank you for what you have done in the elections. It is a surprise, but we know that there's shenanigans behind the scenes. We know that there are bad things happening. We pray, Lord, for President Trump and his cabinet, that you will save them. Number one, save them. And then number two, guide them and use them for your good. We pray for the peace of Jerusalem. We pray for Israel, that you will bring her to the end of herself. But we know what that looks like. It's going to be bad. It's going to be terrible for the planet. It's a judgment on the whole planet. And so we pray for that because that's your will. But like, again, Pastor Joe Mason always prays, we pray that you hold back the flood tide of evil, at least for a while. Why? So we can see people saved, so we can live in peace for a while. We can have a little bit of semblance of decency and peace for a while, Lord. But if not, like Habakkuk said, in your wrath, have mercy. We love you and we praise you, and we're very grateful for a place to worship you in spirit and in truth. In Jesus' precious name.